It isn't a shatter. It isn't the polite knock of a neighbour. The sound of a home invasion is a dull, sickening thud, followed by the crack of dry wood. It sounds like a baseball bat hitting a tree branch. That is the sound of your door jamb splitting. In the movies, the bad guys pick the lock with a tension wrench, or they blow the hinges with C4. In reality, in the suburbs of Chicago or the outskirts of Manchester during a grid-down scenario, they don't bother with finesse. They use kinetic energy. They use mass. They use a size 11 boot applied near the latch. And because your builder saved $5 on materials, that door opens. It doesn't matter if you have $1,000 worth of cameras. It doesn't matter if you have a deadbolt made of titanium. If the wood holding it is weak, the system fails. And once that wood splits, the barrier between your family and a desperate group of strangers is gone. Let's fix the physics before the kick comes. Let's paint the picture. It's day 4. The power has been out since Tuesday. The grocery stores were emptied on day 2. The local mood has shifted from community concern to predatory accumulation. You're sitting in your living room. You're tired. You've been sleeping in shifts, but fatigue makes you sloppy. Outside, a group of 4 men is moving down the street. They aren't heavily armed commandos. They're opportunists. They're testing handles. They're looking for darkness. They're looking for silence. They skip the house with the barking dog. They skip the house with the generator floodlights. They stop at yours. It looks quiet. Maybe too quiet. One of them walks up the driveway. This is the probe. If you don't react, they assume the house is soft. If you do react, they know you have something to protect. This is the paradox of defense. But right now, their math is simple. Can we get in before anyone stops us? Most criminals want to be in and out in under 5 minutes. In a collapse scenario, they might stay longer, but they still fear injury. They want the low-hanging fruit. Your job is to be the thorn bush. Let's look at the numbers. Forget the Hollywood roof entry. Forget the sewer tunnels. According to burglary reports from the US, UK, and Australia, roughly 80% of all intrusions happen on the first floor. The front door alone accounts for 34% of break-ins. First floor windows, another 23%. The back door, about 22%. That means if you secure your ground floor rectangle, front, back, and windows, you have neutralized the vast majority of threats. But here is the ugly truth about force. In almost 40% of cases, there is no force used at all. They walked in. They twisted the knob and it opened. Or the window was unlatched to let in a breeze. In a survival situation, your complacency is their key. You might be worried about snipers, but you should be worried about the bathroom window you left cracked open. You are building a fortress on a foundation of bad habits. Step 1 is behavioural. Lock it, then check it again. If you can't do that, no amount of hardware will save you. Most people think they are prepared because they bought a gun and a bag of rice. That is a fantasy. Real survival is math. It is calories, water turnover, and structural integrity. Do you actually know how long your current supplies will last if you have to board up those windows and stay inside for 3 weeks? Most of you are guessing. Stop guessing. I use a tool called Protocol Survival. It has a survival score calculator. You plug in your family size, your water, your food, and your security layers, and it tells you exactly where you will fail. It might tell you that you have bullets for a year, but water for 3 days. That means you die on day 6. Go to protocolsurvival.com. The calculator is free to try. Get your score. Fix the holes in your plan before the grid goes down. Let's talk physics. A motivated adult male can generate several thousand newtons of force with a running mule kick. When that boot hits your door, where does that energy go? On a standard residential door, the force is concentrated on a tiny area, the strike plate. Pressure equals force divided by area. High force, tiny area, massive stress. The weak link isn't the steel bolt. It isn't the door slab usually. It is the 3/4 of an inch of soft pine wood that forms the door jamb. The screws holding that strike plate are often only half an inch long. They don't even reach the studs. They are just biting into the decorative trim. When the kick lands, the wood shears along the grain. The strike plate flies into the room, the door swings open, and the dynamic of your life changes instantly. You didn't lose a tactical battle. You lost a physics problem. You asked a piece of trim to stop a battering ram. That is a structural failure you can prevent for about $20. Back to the street. The scout signals. They've chosen the back door. It's secluded, dark, blocked from the street view by your own privacy fence. Perfect for them. The biggest guy in the group steps up. He doesn't pick the lock. He doesn't look for a hidden key. He turns his back to the door, lifts his leg, and drives his heel backward, right next to the handle. Inside, you are in the kitchen. You hear the wood groan. Dust flies. The door shudders violently in the frame. This is the moment of truth. If you have a standard setup, that first kick cracks the jamb. The second kick finishes it. The door flies open, bouncing off the interior wall. Now they are inside. You are 10 feet away, unarmed, holding a can of soup. The psychological shock of a breached perimeter is paralyzing. Your brain tries to process why the wall is open. In that 2-second freeze, they close the distance. This is why we harden the perimeter. We don't do it to make the house impenetrable. We do it to buy time. We need that door to hold for 30 seconds, not 2. I can hear the comments already. Sergeant Miller, I don't need a reinforced door. I have a 12 gauge. I have a pit bull. I'll just shoot them. Let's steelman that argument. Yes, a firearm is the ultimate force equalizer. But this argument assumes 3 things. 1. You are awake, alert, and standing right next to the door with the weapon in your hand 24/7. 2. You are legally and morally prepared to take a life instantly without hesitation. 3. There is only one entry point. Here is the reality. You have to sleep. Your wife has to sleep. Your kids are noisy. If the breach happens at 3 a.m. and takes 1 second, you are waking up to a threat already in your bedroom. The gun in the nightstand is useless if you don't have the seconds required to grab it. And what if they don't come through the door? What if they come through the window in the baby's room? You can't clear every room at once. Physical hardening isn't about replacing your weapon. It's about buying you the time to get to it. It's about making sure the noise happens outside, not inside. So how do we fix the physics? It starts with the screws. Go to your front door right now. Pull one of the screws out of the strike plate. I bet you it's barely an inch long. Throw it away. You need 3-inch or 4-inch hardened steel screws. Why? Because a 3-inch screw passes through the flimsy trim and bites deep into the 2x4 structural stud of the house frame. Now, when someone kicks the door, they aren't kicking the trim, they are kicking the structure of the house. You have transferred the force from the weak component to the strong component. This costs pennies. Do it for the strike plate. Do it for the hinges. If you only secure the lock side, they can kick the hinge side and pop the door out backward. 3 inches on all sides. This simple upgrade increases the force required to breach that door from roughly 200 pounds to over 2,000 pounds. You have just forced the enemy to change their tactics or bring heavy tools. Long screws are the baseline. If you are serious, you need to upgrade the hardware itself. A standard strike plate is a tiny rectangle of metal. It concentrates force. We want to distribute force. You want a high security strike plate, something that is 6, 12, or even 18 inches long. The longer the metal, the more wood it interacts with. Better yet, install a door reinforcement kit. These are metal channels that wrap around the door edge and the jamb. They turn the wood into a sandwich filling between layers of steel. Now, when the kick lands, the force is spread across the entire vertical length of the door frame. The stress per square inch drops dramatically. The wood doesn't split because it can't expand. The door might dent, the paint might chip, but it stays shut. And the person on the outside? They just hurt their leg. They are making a massive amount of noise. Every failed kick is a siren alerting you and the neighbourhood. That is what you want. You want them frustrated, limping, and looking for an easier target. Let's replay the scenario with the upgrades. The big guy steps up to your back door. He launches that same mule kick. But this time, your strike plate is anchored with 4-inch screws into the stud, and you have a wraparound reinforcer. The sound is different. It's solid. It sounds like kicking a concrete wall. The door doesn't budge. The shockwave travels up his leg. He curses. He steps back and tries again, harder. Nothing. Now the element of surprise is gone. You are awake. You have moved your family to the safe zone. You have retrieved your defense tool. You are dialing 911 or alerting your neighbourhood watch. The attackers are confused. They expected a quick breach. Now they are exposed. They are making noise in a silent neighbourhood. Panic starts to set in for them. They have a choice. Keep banging on this immovable object and risk getting shot or caught, or move to the house next door that didn't spend the $20. Deterrence isn't just about scary signs. It's about making the physics too expensive for them to solve. There is one more layer for doors that is often overlooked: the internal brace. A deadbolt works in shear. The force tries to snap the bolt sideways. A brace works in compression. This can be a commercial product that anchors into the floor, or a simple 2x4 cut to length and wedged under the knob against a floor cleat. When you use a floor brace, the force of the kick is transferred directly into the foundation of the house. Concrete is stronger than wood. A properly braced door is a nightmare to breach. You can hit it with a sledgehammer and it will hold until the door itself disintegrates. This is crucial for when you are sleeping. It requires zero electricity. It requires no keys. It is just geometry. The downside? You can only use it when you are inside. But in a high-threat scenario, that is exactly when you need it. It turns your home into a vault at night. And if you have a safe room, that door needs a brace too. Layer your defences. So, the door holds. Good. But the looters aren't robots. They are adaptable. If the door feels like a wall, they look left. They look right. They see the dining room window. Glass is the ultimate weakness in modern architecture. It is brittle. It offers zero structural resistance to a brick or a crowbar. In a standard home, the window is the bypass valve for your security system. The attackers move from the back door to the window. One smash. Reach in, unlock the latch, slide it up. They are in. It took 4 seconds longer than the door would have. If you harden the doors but ignore the glass, you haven't secured your house. You've just redirected the traffic. You need to understand how glass fails. It fails under tension. A small crack propagates at the speed of sound. Once the integrity is gone, it falls out of the frame. We need to change the material properties of that glass. You can't easily replace all your windows with ballistic glass. That costs a fortune. But you can use security film. This is a thick polyester laminate that you bond to the interior surface of the glass. It doesn't make the window unbreakable. If they hit it with the bat, the glass will still shatter. But the film holds the shards together. It turns a brittle failure into a ductile failure. Instead of a hole, they get a spider web that is still flexible but stays in the frame. Now, instead of smash and grab, it becomes smash and bash and peel and push. They have to beat the entire sheet of glass out of the frame. This takes energy. It takes time. And most importantly, it makes a hell of a lot of noise. Combined with a glass break sensor, this is a force multiplier. They might still get in, but it will take them 2 minutes of exhausting work instead of 2 seconds of ease. In a survival situation, time is your most valuable commodity. Film buys you minutes. The looters are at the window now. The leader swings a pry bar. The glass shatters, but it doesn't fall. It hangs there, jagged and opaque, held by the 8mm security film. He's confused. He hits it again. And again. The film stretches, the glass crunches, but he can't get his hand through to the latch without slicing his wrist on the edges. He has to start battering the edges of the frame to push the whole sash out. It's loud. It sounds like a car crash happening over and over. Lights are flicking on in the house next door. A dog is barking viciously nearby. The quiet entry is ruined. This is the psychological pivot point. They are exposed. They are working too hard for unknown rewards. The adrenaline is fading, replaced by fear of entrapment. One of the guys at the back says, "Let's go, it's not worth it." They back off. They leave. Your window is destroyed, yes. You have a mess to clean up. But your family is safe in the hallway, and the threat is retreating down the driveway. Now, the objection. Sergeant Miller, if I barricade my doors and film my windows, how do I get out in a fire? This is a valid life safety concern. You cannot turn your home into a prison. The solution is directional hardening. Your defences must be easily removable from the inside, but impossible to manipulate from the outside. Floor braces should pull up in one motion. Security film doesn't stop you from opening the window latch. It stops them from breaking the glass to reach the latch. If you use burglar bars, which I generally dislike because of the fire risk, they must have a quick release mechanism on the interior. You need to drill your exit plan just as much as your defence plan. If the smoke alarm goes off, can your 6-year-old remove the door brace? If not, don't use it on that door. Defence is a balance of risk. Fire is a risk. Looters are a risk. Balance the equation. Don't die in a smoke-filled room because you are too afraid of a burglar. We've talked about contact physics. What happens when they touch your house? Now let's talk about deterrence physics. How to stop them from even walking up the driveway. Criminals, even desperate ones, follow the path of least resistance. They are constantly running a risk versus reward calculation in their heads. Your goal is to skew that calculation. Lighting is energy. A dark house invites an approach. A house that floods with light when motion is detected changes the environment. It removes their concealment. Suddenly, they feel watched. Add visible cameras. Even if the grid is down and they aren't recording to the cloud, the presence of the camera implies a hardened target. It implies you have prepared. Landscaping is physical denial. Thorny bushes, holly, pyracantha, rose, planted under windows are biological barbed wire. They hurt, they rip clothes, they leave DNA. A looter looks at a window with a clear path, and a window with a thicket of thorns. He chooses the clear path. Make your home visually and physically annoying. I mentioned cameras not recording to the cloud. That's a critical point. When the grid goes down, the cloud is gone. Your Google Docs, your YouTube playlists, your digital survival manuals, if they require the internet, they are vaporware. You need a system that lives on your device, offline. That is why I built Protocol Survival, to work without a signal. You can download the entire database, medical guides, tactical checklists, engineering data, directly to your phone. When the cell towers turn into giant metal trees that do nothing, you still have the command center in your pocket. You can look up how to brace a door or treat a laceration while huddled in the dark. Don't rely on a server farm in Virginia to save your life in Texas. Secure your data now. Download the app and sync it for offline use. If you are in a prolonged collapse scenario, civil war, long-term grid failure, you need to accept a hard truth. Given enough time and tools, they can get in. If they bring a battering ram or a truck, your residential door will fail. That is why you need a zone defense. Zone 1 is the exterior. Zone 2 is the interior of the house. Zone 3 is the safe room. If Zone 1 is breached, you don't surrender. You retreat to Zone 3. This should be a bedroom or a hallway that can be hardened. This door needs the same treatment. Solid core, replace that hollow interior door, 3-inch screws, and a heavy-duty deadbolt or barricade bar. This is your Alamo. By the time they breach the front door, deal with the noise, and navigate the house, you are behind this second barrier. You are armed. You have your phone or radio. You have your family behind you. The fatal funnel is now the hallway leading to that room. You have concentrated the enemy into a narrow choke point where your defensive capability is maximized. Why do we do this? It's not because we love hardware. It's not because we are paranoid. It is because of the look in a child's eyes when they are truly terrified. If you have never seen it, pray you never do. It cuts through you. If a group of looters breaks into your home and takes your supplies, you might survive. You might live through the hunger. But the failure will haunt you. You will look at your family, hungry, scared, traumatized, and you will know that for the price of a takeout dinner, you could have reinforced that doorframe. You could have bought the film. You could have stopped it. The guilt of failure is a heavier burden than the effort of preparation. We prepare so that we never have to apologize to our children for not keeping them safe. We prepare so that when the world outside turns into chaos, our home remains a sanctuary. It's not about being a hero, it's about doing your job as a protector. Let's finish the story the right way. The grid is down, the street is dark, the looters approach your house. They see the motion light trigger, not blinding, but enough to show they are exposed. They see the "Beware of Dogs" sign, even if you don't have one. They see the thorny bushes under the windows. They step onto the porch and see the heavy-duty strike plate visible through the gap, signalling a reinforced frame. The leader looks at the setup. He looks at his tired crew. He looks at the dark house next door with the open layout and no lights. He signals, "Move on." They never even kick the door. You sleep through the night. Your kids wake up and ask for breakfast. You have breakfast. That is the victory. The best gunfight is the one that never happens. The best breach is the one that is deterred before contact. That is what physics and psychology buy you. Silence. In the chaos of a collapse, information is fragmented. You might hear rumours of a gang hitting houses 3 streets over. You clutch your rifle, heart pounding. But if you've done the work, the war might pass you by entirely. While others are dealing with trauma and loss, you are simply existing. Boredom becomes your biggest problem. That is the ultimate luxury in survival, to be bored while others are bleeding. It's not luck, it's engineering. It's the result of replacing 1/2-inch screws with 3-inch screws. It's the result of putting film on glass. It's the result of thinking like a criminal so you can defeat them as an architect. The world is fragile. Your home doesn't have to be. We haven't talked about the garage. For 9% of intruders, this is the main entrance. The emergency release cord on your garage door opener is a vulnerability. A wire hanger hooked through the top of the door can snag that release, disengage the motor, and allow the door to be lifted by hand in 6 seconds. Zip tie that release latch. Keep the cord, but secure the mechanism so it can only be pulled from the inside with significant force or by cutting the tie. And the door from the garage to the house? Treat it like an exterior door. Solid core, deadbolt, reinforced frame. Too many people leave this door unlocked because they think the garage door is a wall. It is not a wall. It is a thin sheet of aluminium that can be bent, broken, or bypassed. Once they are in the garage, they have cover. They have tools. Your tools. Don't let your own screwdriver be the weapon that breaches your home. Sliding glass doors are beautiful. They are also massive holes in your perimeter. The locks are usually tiny latches that fail under a moderate yank. And worse, the doors can often be lifted right out of their tracks. The fix? A Charlie bar or a simple wooden dowel cut to fit in the bottom track prevents the door from sliding. To prevent lifting, install screws or a pin in the upper track frame that leaves just enough clearance for the door to slide, but not enough to be lifted. And again, security film. A sliding door is a giant sheet of glass. Film it. These are cheap fixes. A dowel costs $2. A pin costs 10 cents. The security they provide is exponential compared to the cost. Check the swing of your doors. Most exterior doors swing inward. This makes them vulnerable to kicks, but hides the hinges inside. However, some side doors or utility doors swing outward. If the hinges are exposed to the outside, a criminal can pop the hinge pins with a screwdriver and a hammer, and simply pull the door off. If you have outward swinging doors, you need security hinges. These have a set screw that locks the pin in place, or a stud on one leaf that fits into a hole on the other when the door is closed. This means that even if the pin is removed, the door cannot be slid out of the frame. It locks into itself. Check every door. If you see hinge barrels on the outside, you have a problem. Fix it. We spend our lives walking through doors without thinking about them. We see them as transit points. But in history, the door was the difference between civilization and the wild. The door is the line where your authority begins and the world's chaos ends. When you reinforce a door, you are making a statement. You are saying, "This space is mine. You cannot have it." It is a primal act of claiming territory. In a polite society, we forget this. We think the law protects the territory. But when the law is absent, the only thing protecting your territory is the friction between the door edge and the jamb. Respect that friction. Maximize it. Don't take your safety for granted because you live in a nice zip code. Physics doesn't care about your property values. Survival isn't about being invincible. Nobody is invincible. It is about increasing the cost of entry for bad things. Whether it's a virus, a power outage, or a looter, your goal is to make it hard for the problem to reach you. You add layers. You add redundancy. You add friction. The looter wants an easy job. Don't give it to him. Make him work for it. Make him work so hard he quits. Because at the end of the day, the grid isn't what keeps the lights on. It's just a wire. And the lock isn't what keeps the monsters out. It's just a mechanism. It is your will, applied to the physical world, that keeps the monsters out. Stay safe, stay prepared, and fix those screws. Now that the perimeter is secure, we have to talk about what happens when the threat isn't a person, but the water coming out of your tap. Because a locked door won't stop cholera. Well, secure the water next.